Good morning, everybody. All right, we're going to keep the lights on, please, for this session. My session today is called Grow Your Business by Connecting Your Dots. So I'm going to come into the audience and ask you a few questions. Do you want to be more successful? Yes, indeed you do, right? I believe you're all here today because you want to be more successful. Am I right? Yes. So tell me, I want to know, what will make you more successful? Can you give me one word or two words or a sentence?
Grit.
Grit. You gotta have grit. What about you, lovely lady in red?
Confidence.
Confidence will make you more successful. What about you, handsome man?
Uniqueness.
You need to be unique. A lovely lady in red again.
My strengths.
Mine?
My strengths.
Your strengths. You've got to utilize your strengths. Aisha?
Is your competencies.
Your core competencies. Let's come to the back now. You thought you could sleep. No, you can't.
Courage.
Courage. You need courage.
Charms.
You need charm. You've got a lot of charm, you handsome devil. All right. What will make you more successful?
Determination.
Determination. All right. What about you, young man?
Love.
Love will make us more successful. I'm still looking. Love.
Probably connections.
Connections will make you more successful.
Discipline.
Discipline.
Having fun.
Having fun will make you more successful. You want to speak, don't you?
Commitment.
Commitment will make you more successful. Let's go to another lady in red.
Attitude.
Attitude. Okay, and one more.
Action take.
Action takers will make you more successful. It's amazing how many different answers I get when I ask people what success depends on. What will your future success depend on? So I did a little bit of research onto this, and I love to use a quote by this man. Who is it? It is. This is, of course, Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs had a lot to say about success. He had a very famous quote when he was addressing a university crowd at a graduation. And his quote went something like this: if you want to be more successful, you can't connect the dots looking forward. Right. You can only connect them looking back. So I thought this was very interesting. Steve Jobs was saying, I cannot sit here today and think what's going to make me more successful in the future unless I first think, how did I get here right now? Let me look back at my history and what has brought me to this point today. What has made me successful? What have been some of my failures? What have been my successes? So Steve Jobs said, we got to connect the dots looking back. So I want today to ask you, with your permission, can I look back at my life and connect my dots? And in doing so, I'll give you some of my key learning points that's helped me to get to this point today. Would that be helpful? Yes. And guess what? I brought the dots with me. Very difficult. You got a microphone, you got dots, and you got a clicker. So I want to share some stories with you today, connecting my dots. And the first story takes us back to where I'm from. I'm from a town in the north of England called Sheffield. Have you heard of Sheffield? Why did you all groan when I said that? If I'd said Manchester, what would you do? See? Manchester's next door to Sheffield. I'm from Sheffield in the north of England, and I was born and raised there with my mom and dad. And in 1981, I'd been a secretary for several years at this point. Straight from college, I went to work as a secretary, same company for 9 years. And I wanted to go back to college to gain more qualifications. Is it important that we keep studying? Absolutely. I felt it was very important. So in 1981, I went back to college to study 2 nights a week for an advanced qualification in secretarial and business studies. The teacher recommended that everyone in the group should enter a local competition. The local competition was called Super Secretary 1981. Now, when the teacher recommended all the students should enter this competition, what did we all say? Did we go, woohoo, yay? Or did we say, no, we don't want to? First or second? You were right. Oh, no, we don't want to do that. It's like, we got to get out of our comfort zone. We didn't want to do that. But that teacher pushed us. I'll never forget that teacher. She pushed us. She encouraged us. She said, this will be really good practice for you in order to pass these examinations that we're working to. So she made the whole class enter the competition. There were shorthand tests. There was typing tests. There were interviews. There were phone skills. There was a project. Loads of things. And the final of the competition was held at a local nightclub called Romeo and Juliet's. And there were 7 finalists. I was one of them, and one of my classmates was also one of the finalists. So we were very, very excited. And the 3rd prize winner was announced. Can I have a drum roll, please? The 3rd prize winner was my classmate, Christine. Woohoo! 2nd, somebody else I didn't know. And the 1st prize, come on, guys. Super Secretary 1981 was? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, this young, sweet, innocent child was me in 1981. I look a little bit thinner there because the slides are not quite right this morning, but never mind, I'll take it. This was me. Who do you think in the whole room, remember we were at the nightclub in Romeo and Juliet's, I'd got my colleagues with me, I'd got my friends, my parents, my bosses. Who do you think was the most surprised person in the whole room? You. Not me, baby. Not me. Someone else was more surprised than me. My mum was not surprised. She knew I was fabulous. Who was the most surprised person? My boss. He said, you, Super Secretary? Ah. But you know, he was really thrilled because this picture was on the front page of the national newspaper, the local newspaper the next day, with him alongside it as well. Why am I telling you this story? Because if that teacher had not pushed me, would that have happened? That teacher pushed me and I entered that competition and I won the Sheffield round. Then that meant I was in the Northern England round. So I was now competing with secretaries who'd won their competitions all over the north of England. At the final of that, can I have a drum roll, please? The winner of the North of England Super Secretary competition was? Yes! And then there was the national final. There was a Miss North, there was a Miss South, there was a Miss East, and there was a Miss. And the winner of the national final was not Shirley Taylor. But I came second. So when I look back and connect my dots, this was one of the major T-junctions for me. If I had not gone down this route, this had not happened, I would not be standing on this stage today. I would not have gained the experience and been able to look back and say, that was a great opportunity. What did I learn from that? I learned this very important thing. If we want to grow, we have to expand our comfort zone, or we have to get out of our comfort zone, because that's where everything that makes life worthwhile is going to happen. Do you agree? Well, I'm going to give my dots away as I talk today. So this dot goes to the teacher who pushed me to enter that competition. Her name was Linda. Aisha, would you be Linda? You're welcome. You take care of it. Don't keep it or I'll have to kill you. Everywhere around the world, people want to keep my dogs. Um, all right, let me fast forward a little to 1983. I'd left my job as a secretary. I'd been to teacher training college and I'd got some teacher training qualifications. I knew I wanted to teach. So I looked in the paper one day and I saw an advertisement. Teacher wanted to teach on business and secretarial skills subjects in Singapore. So I applied for the job. Long story short, I was interviewed by this lady in London. She was someone who spoke like the Queen of England. She spoke just like the Queen of England, darling. And she got a very, very posh accent. And, well, you see, I come from up north where the real people come from. I don't talk nothing like that. Long story short, I don't know how, but I got the job. This lady was recruiting on behalf of the school in Singapore. They gave me the job. In 1983, I went on a plane for the first time to Singapore. Within a couple of days, I realized something very strange was happening. I realized that every time I opened my mouth, whether I was speaking to someone at the bus stop, someone at school, one of my colleagues, one of my fellow teachers, whenever I opened my mouth to speak, this was the face that looked back at me. Now, I may be from Sheffield, but I am quite bright. I know what that face meant. What did it mean? We don't understand you. I had lived in Sheffield all my life. Now I am in Singapore. I found out many months later that the very first day I arrived, when my boss had picked me up at the airport, she went home, she telephoned Pamela, this lady in the picture, she telephoned her and said, Shirley's arrived. And Pamela said, oh, darling, how is she? Is everything all right, darling? And she said, we don't understand a word she says. We're sending her home on the first plane tomorrow. True story. Now, I didn't know that story until many months later, but like I said, I did recognize that whenever I opened my mouth, people did not understand me. So I learned that I had to make some changes, right? I had to slow down my speech. I had to speak more carefully and intonate my words so that people could understand me. I had to learn to say butter instead of butter, and cup instead of cup. And now I still have difficulty sometimes, but I had to make some changes. 2 years later, I left Singapore and I went to live in Bahrain in the Middle East. Did I have more challenges? Did I have communication challenges? After 2 years, I went back to Singapore. Same, I have more communication challenges. I lived in Toronto, Canada for 1 year. Did I have challenges? Yes. No matter where we are, we will have different challenges. This lady became my constant in my life. I met her in 1983 at that interview. She was my mentor, my friend. She became my fairy godmother. She became my best friend. And even now, even though she passed in 2007, and all those years, she was like a second mother to me. And whenever now I have a challenge, I will think to myself, what would Pam do? So I've learned a lot from this, and here's what I learned. I learned that change is inevitable. Yes, those three gorgeous people are me. Change is inevitable. It was the 80s. That's what we did with our hair in the 80s, right, girls? Change is inevitable, but we don't grow when things are easy. We grow when we face challenges. True? So I would like to give this next dot to Pam Forrester, my mentor, my good friend, my fairy godmother. Would you be Pam? Excellent, thank you. Keep hold of that dot. Thank you. I'm going to fast forward now to 1991. Does anyone recognize this place? I hear some. This is Singapore. In 1991, I was living back in Singapore. And what happened in 1991? Let me look at my dot and it will tell me. Oh, yeah, I remember. My boss said to me, same boss, she said, Shirley, there are two guys in reception and they want to take me for lunch. Come with me. And I said, yeah, no, you go. You're very good at talking. You go. She said, no, come with me. So I went to lunch with these two very handsome guys. I found out that they were from Pearson Education, now the world's largest publishing company. During that meeting, they wanted to know what books do we use in our school for teaching each different subject. So we told them we use this book, this book, this book. The students have to buy this book. But there is no one book that we find suitable to tell the students to buy for business English. So they had already identified that there was a need for a book on business English. And they said to me, Shirley, will you write as a book? I almost fell over and fainted. I had had no idea at all, no dream to write a book. But these guys were telling me, will you write as a book? What did I say? Yes. Not immediately, I didn't. I didn't say yes immediately, but I went home and I called my mom, and my mom said, Shirley, if you don't do it, you are right, darling, someone else will. And that's been another mantra of mine. If I don't do it, someone else will. It might as well be me. So I took unpaid leave to go off and work on this book. This is the 3rd edition of the book. It's called Communication for Business. That's the 4th edition. They put a picture of me on the front. Very strange. But as a result of these 2 books, they also asked me to revise a book by another author called called Leonard Gartside. They asked me to revise this book. This had been a book that had been out in 2 editions already, 3 editions, and they said, Shirley, Mr. Gartside is dead. We would like you to revise his book. Well, I almost fainted. Mr. Gartside's 3rd edition had been my Bible. I had had it in my drawer forever as a secretary and forever as a teacher. And they told me, now this guy is dead, we want you to revise his book. Was I scared? Yeah, but you know what? If I don't do it, absolutely. I revised that book, and this is the 5th edition. So that was the 4th edition. This is the 5th edition. Then we did a 6th edition, and every few years they keep asking me to do another one. This is the 8th edition. I am so proud of this book. Having the opportunity to have revised this book and to keep revising it, I'm very proud to say this book has now sold over 500,000 copies and it's been translated into 16 languages. As a result of these books, another publisher asked me to write a series of books. 2 books, they called it a series. But then after these 2 books, they said to me, Shirley, you know lots of people in your association, in Asia Professional Speakers. Can you ask other people to write books in your series? Sure, I can. So I asked a lot of other speakers to write books. I was the editor. There are now 9 books in that series, published by Marshall Cavendish. After this, the publisher said to me, Shirley, can you get a few speakers together and write a book with 1 tip on every page, and there will be 365 tips? Oh my gosh. It's like one thing after another. And it's like, if I don't do it, yeah. You'll recognize one of our speakers later today is in this book. So I got 9 of us together. Tim Wade is speaking later today. He's in this book too. Why am I telling you all this? Because my books are outside if you want to buy them. Very cheap. None of this would have happened if I had not met this man that day in reception and my boss had not insisted that I go for lunch with them. This guy is Leslie Lim. He was one of those guys in reception, and he is now my husband. No, I'm kidding. It's not happened. No, that didn't happen. Wouldn't it be romantic if that had happened? Nothing would have happened if I had not said yes that day. What did I learn from this? I learned something that Richard Branson said, and I love this quote: if someone asks you to do something and you don't know how to do it, just say yes and then figure it out, right? So, who wants to be Leslie Lim? I'm coming over here. You look a bit like him. There you go. You can be Leslie. Thank you. All right, I'm going to take you through the 90s. Sorry, back to the 90s now. Who's this? It's not the Queen, no. This is my mum. I'm taking you back to the 90s now because during the 90s I lived back home with my mum. My dad had passed away a few years earlier. I loved my mum and dad. They were very, very supportive of me, always, forever. And they encouraged me, and they supported me, and they didn't push me, but they supported me and encouraged whatever I wanted to do. Now, I know a lot of people right now, sometimes if their children was to say, I want to go and live abroad, some parents would say, no, you stay here, better you stay with us, la. Why you want to go Australia? Why you go away? My parents were never like that. They always encouraged me. And I lived back home in the 90s because my mum was quite ill at the time and I needed to be home with her to just look after it, not to look after her, but to be with her. And I felt it was my place. But she knew I wasn't happy. So in 2002, she said, Shirley, I know you've got itchy feet again. Please, go back to Singapore. I know that's where your heart is. So in 2002, I did go back to Singapore. Since then, I've built up my company, STTS Training. I work with lots of other trainers around Asia. I've got my own brand, which is Shirley Taylor, that's me. I've also got a virtual training online program. And I'm proud to say that since 2006, when I first set up my company, I've worked with 36 trainers in 11 different countries on 2,500 training days, and I've now got 2 licensed trainers. So while I'm speaking to you in Philippines, someone is speaking in Singapore delivering my program. What did I learn from these 2 people, these 2 fabulous people? Yes, it was another 80s picture with the hair. This is what I learned from my mom and dad. Please, parents, encourage your children because you have no idea what they may be capable of. Would you be my mom and dad? Both of them in one. Thank you. Encourage your children, please. So we're coming more up to date now. I'm going to fast forward to 2006, is when I joined Asia Professional Speakers Singapore. This was a huge T-junction moment and turning point in my life. I joined APSS, and within a few months, I realized I'd found my tribe. And not only did I find a local tribe in Singapore, I also found that there was now a global tribe because APSS is a member of the Global Speakers Federation. So a lot of things happened to me as a result of joining APSS. One of them that stands out particularly is within a few years of joining, I'd got to know this guy. His name is Scott Friedman. He was a member of NSA and in USA. He's a past president. Some of you may have met him if you've been to Singapore. Scott Friedman passed on my name to a lady in America called Marjorie Brody. She ran a training company and she'd got a global contract with a company and she was rolling out her programs in Europe and in North America. She told Scott, I need somebody in Southeast Asia to help roll out my programs and deliver my programs. So Scott told Marjorie about me. And as a result of that connection, I've worked with trainers. I have never delivered one of these programs myself, but I've worked with trainers in all of these countries delivering Brody training programs. None of that would have happened if I hadn't joined APSS and if I hadn't met Scott Friedman and if I hadn't gone out there and made connections. So what did I learn? What I learned from this is something that I hope you will remember. On our own, we can get so far, but together we can help each other and we can grow even more. So let me ask Peter, would you be Scott Friedman today? There you go. Sorry, Lindsay, did you think it was going to be you again? So, Scott Friedman is another dot to my success. All right, let's move on. This gentleman is David Lim. He was the first Singaporean to climb Mount Everest. And he was a past president of APSS, Singapore Association. And after a couple of years, he said to me, Shirley, you'd make a good president. Why don't you join the executive committee? And I was like, me? I'd never even thought about it. But you know what? David Lim had planted the seed now. It made me think about it. It made me ask questions. And as a result of that, I joined the executive committee as secretary, then as vice president, and I'm very happy to say I was president in 2011. And then this happened. When I joined APSS 5 years ago, if someone had told me then that one day I would be president, I would have fainted.
Really?
Absolutely.
What if I said that I think that one day you'll be president of the Global Speakers Federation? Whoa, good grief.
The gentleman who was doing that video with me is Tim Wade at the back of the room. It's amazing what things are talked about in jest, isn't it? In 2013, just like today, the president of the Global Speakers Federation, Elias, is here with you. In 2013, the president of the GSF was Cheryl Cran. She said to me at the end of that convention, she got to know me, and she said, Shirley, you'd make a good president of the Global Speakers Federation. Why don't you join our committee? I could have fainted right there and then. But hey, she's planted the seed. So I became treasurer, then secretary. I'm now on the executive committee. I went to vice president. Everyone is a one-year term. And it was one of my proudest moments in my life last year when they crowned me the 21st president. I got no more time. You can't clap anymore. But thank you. So what did I learn from all of this? What I learned from all of this, I'm going to tell you in a minute when I've given out these dots, because the dots are very important. Tom, would you be David Lim? David Lim is an important part of my success. Violet, would you be Cheryl Cran, the Global Speakers Federation president? And this one, this last dot, goes to the one person who has helped me the most in my past year as president of the Global Speakers Federation. We all need help. We all need some support. The person who's been the biggest support has been Nabil Dost, last year's president. Lindsay, would you be Nabil? Thank you. What did I learn from these three people? What did I learn from this? This is what I learned. We rise by lifting others. Do you believe that? Yes. We cannot do these things on our own. David Lim planted the seed. Cheryl Cran planted the seed. They encouraged me. Nabil Dost, during the past year, he supported me and encouraged me during some particularly difficult times. We rise by lifting others. So who can you help to rise during your climb to fame in PAPS? Who can you help to rise? Look around you. So now that I've given you all my dots, I said we were going to connect them, right? So I would like to ask everyone, please, everyone who has one of my dots, can you please stand and raise it over your head? We should have 7 dots. If anybody's gone to the washroom, I am going to kill them. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Excellent. So look around the room, please. I was giving you the key turning points in my life. When you look around the room, what do you see? Do you see key learnings? Do you see T-junction moments? Do you see strategic turning points, or do you see something else? What do you see when you look around the room? Thank you. Say it again. You see people. Am I right? Ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, keep those dots over your head. Every single, Lindsay, where's that dot? Every single success that I can look back in my life has been connected to another person. The fact that I've built great relationships over the years and made great connections, not necessarily for my own gain, but to help other people as well. Building great relationships has been my ultimate key. Just now at the beginning of my session, I was asking you, what does success depend on? One of you said connections. Who was it? One of you. Thank you, young man. You can have a kiss later and a hug. Only one of you said connections. I would put up there right at the very top of my list, building great relationships. And I think these are going to be even more important as you go forward in a digital world. Can I ask you all now to connect our dots in this room now? I'd like you all to stand up. And we're going to we're just going to connect these dots. So somehow or other, you've got to hold someone's hand. You can't do it without standing. Yes. You're going to stand up until we make a big link. So Tom's got to hold one's hand and connect to the next dot. Keep connecting that dot. Go ahead, all around the room, until all these dots are connected. All these dots. If you're sitting down, are you connected to another person who's connected to a dot? Wow. Does that feel powerful? Don't clap yet. As you look around the room, I want you to feel this powerful connection. And I want you to look back. I want you to think back in your life, not today, but after the convention. What has made you successful up to date? What can make you more successful in the future? And I guarantee that when you start making great connections, communicating with heart, which is what I focus on in my sessions, working on those relationships, leading with heart, connecting with heart, I strongly believe that you will all have a much stronger future with even more success than you could dream of. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a great audience and helping me to connect my dots.